Call this meeting to order. This is a public hearing for the World's Best Workforce Report 2023-2024. I will read you the procedures for the public hearing. Public hearings are required by law concerning certain issues, and the Northfield Board of Education recognizes the value of obtaining public input on matters before the school board during a public hearing. The board retains the right to require that those in attendance at a public hearing indicate their desire to address the board and complete and file with the clerk of the board an appropriate request prior to the commencement of the hearing. Every effort will be provided at a public hearing for all points of view to be heard and considered. To that end, the board has adopted the following procedures. 1. Individuals wishing to address the board shall be recognized by the board chair before speaking. 2. Each speaker will be required to share their first and last name, validate that they are a district stakeholder, and the group they represent when applicable. The board may require a brief statement of the subject to be covered or the issue to be addressed before allowing the speaker to address the board. 3. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes unless the limit is waived by a majority vote of the board members present at the beginning of the hearing. And finally, number 4, questions for clarification are appropriate, but debate of issues is not. Right, we will welcome Hope Langston to give us a review of the outcomes of the 23-24 World's Best Workforce Plan. Welcome, Hope.
Good evening, everyone. First, I want to thank Jenny and Jeff and Matt, who are going to sit through this presentation for the second time this evening. I did make a couple of changes based on feedback we received directly from the Northfield Forward group. It wasn't expansive feedback, but there was some. So we always welcome that group's input. And this was presented to Northfield Forward last Monday. So we're pleased to be here tonight to talk about last year's results. So World's Best Workforce, as you know, is reported on the prior school year. So we're pleased to be here tonight to talk about the results. Everything with Tim, we'll do it this way. Okay. Everything we do, again, is grounded in our vision to prepare every student for lifelong success by developing critical thinkers who are curious and ready to engage in our society. World's Best Workforce covers goals that are delineated by the state of Minnesota. They do align with our district benchmarks. So, and that was the case way back in 2013 when World's Best Workforce was first legislated. This goal, World's Best Workforce Goal 2, is not going to be included in the new plan that we are to develop, and we'll talk about later, called the Comprehensive Achievement and Civic Readiness Plan, otherwise known as CACR. But because we care about literacy and we had devoted a lot of PD and effort in curriculum alignment, we are presenting on third grade reading results just to because it's important to us and we know it's an important benchmark. This goal in the future will be reported in our local literacy plan, which is required by the READ Act, and it will be filed every year by June 15th. So it's not going away, but it's changing it's changing its origin and where it's going to be reported to the state. So our third grade reading goal was 70% of third graders will meet or exceed grade level on the MCA in 2024. We had 63% of our third graders proficient. We didn't quite make our mark. As you can see here, the disaggregated data, we did have a decline from our 2023 results, which we knew were a bit unusual. Number one, because of the refusal rate at one of our schools, and that happened to be concentrated in third grade. And second, because of a performance of a particular cohort at GVP. So excluding that outlier, the 63% is still moving us forward in a post-COVID environment. Is it where we want to be? No. Is it a step forward towards where we want to be? Yes. But these are our results. We continue to see the gap between student groups, but we do see again, dedicated instruction that we know we just need to stay the course to see the improvement. So we always take that grade level proficiency and we look at it in state context. I'm not signed in as me. So Tim, not sure where we should head on that one. I'm going to do it this way. Won't see the whole table, but I'm going to actually just let you know what the state context is for third grade.
Hope I have it on my computer. I could bring it up. Would you like?
That would be
bring-
great.
Yep.
And I apologize for that. We should have planned ahead for who's signed in on Google on this laptop over here. Okay. So that proficiency rate of a 63.1% was higher than 89% of the districts who were testing 10 or more students, O1 districts, so independent school districts. This table is for your reference, and it contains a lot of information, so you have to take it all in. But the red and the green shading is, did we increase or decrease? You also have green and red shading for both state proficiency and participation rate. So you can see that our 98% proficiency rate in third grade reading, most of our kids are participating in the MCA, but it was just, I think it was a 0.1% below the state proficient or participation rate. So technically that one's black shaded because it was just incrementally below. So Matt, can you bring up the top 10
Yep. just
off
give me a
that other slide? So I knew a question we were going to get is, yes, 89% of districts have proficiency rates in third grade at or below our proficiency rate. So who is it that is outperforming us? And so I also did a ranking for that for Northfield Forward because I was anticipating that would be a question. It would be a question that I have. And so this table actually lists the districts that had proficiency rates above ours. And you can see that there is the district, this comes right from the MDE public data report. The highest proficiency rate in the state was 81%. And that was in a district that was testing 16 students. So most districts, you have a handful that scored in the 70% proficiency range, and then you're into the 60s. Again, we want to hit that 80% mark, but we also want to provide a complete picture about the landscape of Minnesota third grade MCA results. So this is for your information. But again, these are the actual districts testing 10 or more students that had proficiency rates higher than ours. All right, I think we can head back to mine. Okay. So we know that change takes time. And there's no one more impatient than I am. But I also know, this is a true statement, but I also know that we have to give things time to work. So MTSS firmly in place, great leadership teams at every building, looking at the data, looking at allocation of resources, and we know that that's incredibly important. We also know that our teachers continue to work with structured literacy curricula that they just implemented last year. So there's a learning curve associated with that. This year we added on top of that pacing checks. So not only are you implementing the curriculum, but are you keeping pace so that students are getting through that structured literacy curriculum by the end of the year. So that's an add for this year, but completely necessary. We have 94 teachers in OLA training this year. So they are spending their Wednesday mornings learning about the science of reading. Again, we expect that information will carry from what they are learning in their course to how they are instructing their students. We continue to use reading intervention. SIPS has been a successful add for us. We are also adding UFly, and then we use a program called Fast Forward. This is an area where we know we continue to need to grow in the offerings that we have available for students experiencing reading difficulty. The state is due to publish their list of approved interventions early in the 2025 year. And so we will look at that and adjust what we do. Minnesota Reading Corps, cannot say enough about them. Teresa Bauman leads that team for our district, and they are seeing kids in every building doing very structured interventions for students who qualify under their criteria. We are also this year adding trained volunteers. So Alicia Clary, one of our district coaches, is training volunteers in each building to be able to offer some of the interventions that are found in the FastBridge platform. And the FastBridge platform, as you know, is one of the approved READ Act assessment screeners, and within it comes a set of interventions that it recommends based on the testing information of each individual student. It's an extensive collection of interventions that are meant to be accomplished with very little time every day. And it incorporates the lessons, it incorporates the progress monitoring tool. And so she is training volunteers and teachers to offer those interventions to kids. So we think that's a great add. So now we get to the real world's best workforce. That was all grade 3 reading. Remember, that's now going to move to the local literacy plan. So goal 1 of world's best workforce, all children are ready for school. Our goal for last year was that 70% of incoming K students will meet the grade level benchmark on this year's FastBridge test. Kindergarten is the only one that I consider sort of real time because we can collect that fall information and get it to you before the world's best workforce, whereas everybody else, we're waiting for the spring results. And this year we did see 70% of the students meeting the grade level benchmark. Now, some of you, if you read No Northfield last night, say, but you said 84%. And there are 2 different benchmarks in FastBridge. One is according to FastBridge's benchmarks. The other is according to national percentile. And when we look at this, in order to be able to compare Star Early Literacy, which was our assessment for the past 3 years, to this year's FastBridge Early Reading, we stayed with national percentile. And the benchmark at a given grade level would be 50th percentile. So that's why you're seeing a difference between 70th percentile, or 70% of our kids versus 84% of our kids. FastBridge will tell you that their research shows you can go a little lower than 50% and work with those kids in the classroom with strong tier 1 instruction and be okay, and they're likely to be okay with their reading. This one is a little bit tighter, and it's saying, okay, anybody below the 50th is not included in here. So there's a range for probably about 40th to 50th percentile kids that are not included here that were included in the Fastbridge benchmark. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's why you're seeing a difference. So we see good gains. I would tell you that I would not necessarily compare the STAR test to Fastbridge, completely different assessments, but this is our starting point with Fastbridge, and we are happy to see this many kids proficient. Again, we do see the gaps, and we are anxious to see our winter data to see if we have impacted change in those results. But this is our results. Again, we included the prior years just as a point of comparison, but really two different assessments. Okay, so we continue to see strong birth to 3 programming, and this is super interesting, and we saw it play out in our Fastbridge data. Our Fastbridge data allows us to see not only a national percentile for each student, but a district and a school percentile, which means we can see at every percentile level whether we are outperforming the district or the national percentile or underperforming. And one interesting finding that we saw this fall was that our highest performing math students, those above the 75th percentile in kindergarten, were actually underperforming. I think I talked about that last time I was here. And that's an interesting thing because math, in order to really progress in your math knowledge, you need exposure to math content. And we know that our birth to 5 programming all the way through pre-K has really been emphasizing literacy. And same with our area preschools, same with NCEC. So we are outperforming the national percentile in the early reading composite in Fastbridge, slightly underperforming for our highest K math students. We believe that is that emphasis. So we are looking to study those results in the fall, but I just think that overperforming in early reading speaks to the success of the birth to 4 programming in our district and our community. We have preschool and family engagement navigators who are continuing to do their work, engaging families, getting them support they need, and most importantly, finding them preschool slots. Critically important. We have 19 NCEC staff engaged in pre-K letters training. We believe that is going to make a difference in instruction that's happening at the NCEC. They continue to use pre-K Heggerty curriculum. And again, I leave this here as an action step because we are seeing such strong results coming out of NCEC. We have Minnesota Reading Corps support at NCEC, which looks different than what it looks like at the elementary level, but nonetheless, it's in-class support for kids who might need a little extra help with reading or early literacy skills. Continue to use talking points. It's a preferential form of communication for many of our parents. And then we continue with our preschool data sharing agreements, which allow us to get their attendance data, and we share back cohort level data for fall testing. Second goal, all racial and economic achievement gaps between students are closed. We have experimented since 2013 with a number of different metrics to try and move the needle on this one. We have centered on attendance for the past couple of years because we know that attendance matters. And so we are looking at the difference in attendance rates between FRP and non-FRP and students of color and white students. We still see a gap, and the gap change, it was an increase of 1% between non-FRP, FRP, and an increase of 3% between white and students of color over last year. Carrie Dube and I dug into this a bit. the gap between white and students of color was because our white students experienced a bigger increase and our students of color consistent attendance rate dropped by 1%. So when we're talking 1%, we need to do better on this. We believe that, again, to close that gap, we're going to continue with our personal outreach to families. We know that the research is pretty clear that attendance work takes time. It is not an easy problem to solve. And we know that our cohort level data from our family engagement navigator shows improvement, but we have kids beyond that cohort that we continue to work with. So action steps for attendance. So we have the family engagement navigators that's Cindy and Heidi that work at our elementary schools. But we also have our cultural liaisons. So we have Sebastian Brissett working primarily with middle school and high school attendance needs. He now sits on the MTSS teams to provide direct feedback from our families. We have Sybil Betzinger working directly with our Native American families and reaching out to them to remove barriers to school attendance. And now, because we are part of that state attendance pilot, we have Melissa Hansen, who has been hired as a secondary attendance and family support liaison. Notice the words family support in her job title, because this is a new ad for us that we would provide direct service to families. This was based on feedback we received from focus groups that we met with 2 springs ago, saying, hey, yeah, we know we need some help getting our kids to school, and can you work with us directly? So Melissa just started working with our district. We are excited to have her, and we are excited to see the direct offering of family and student support from groups from her. And we think that will help again improve attendance for some of our families that just need a direct touch with things they're facing in their households. So that's the state attendance pilot ad. And we are excited to be part of that process because we get to learn a lot from the other 11 districts that are also in the pilot, trying some new and different ways to combat chronic absenteeism. Each building has an attendance focus that they work on with their MTSS teams, and that is looking directly at data on a regular basis to make sure that we have identified who needs help and what the supports are that we can offer. So again, Carrie's not wrong. As our attendance rates go up, the families that remain experiencing attendance challenges often have some tougher barriers to overcome, and we have to just, keep at it, but it may take a little more time. But we are seeing some obviously some promising wins, and so we're excited to continue that work. The SEL survey, which you all have heard about before, that K-12 survey about social emotional health. We know that social emotional health is an indicator of chronic absenteeism and can be an indicator. And so we believe those results that was just given in the last few weeks help us pinpoint students who might need additional support because of social emotional challenges that they might be facing. So again, that data goes to the MTSS team so they can begin to offer support to students who show up as a possible concern in that survey. And again, we bring up talking points again solely because it is a very effective and heavily used platform for our teachers and other staff members to communicate with families. Goal 3, all students are ready for career and college. I want to just remind everybody at this point that each district in the state of Minnesota develops their own, is able to choose what metrics they want to measure each of these world's best workforce goals. We landed on MCA performance in 8th grade and ACT college readiness in high school. So we wanted, our goal, just to go back for a second, we wanted 60% of our 8th graders to meet proficiency on the 2024 MCAs. And we also wanted to increase the percentage of students meeting the college ready benchmark. This was aspirational. We wanted 45% because we had hit 40. We just missed it in 8th grade, and that is something to be shouted out. 59% of our 8th graders met proficiency in reading and 66% in math. So that is fantastic. Percentage of the class of 2024, and again, this is from the official ACT published report for the class of 2024. This is not test day from junior year. This includes all the ACT tests that were taken by the class of 2024, and then ACT does their work to produce an official report. So 32% of the class of 2024 met college readiness benchmark in all 4 subtests. At the state level, that number was 26%, and at the national level, it was 20%. So we exceed both state and national metrics for this year, but we did not meet our world's best workforce goal of 45%. These are the 8th grade trends. The state line is the black line in the middle for all students. And then you see demographic groups for Northfield. Non-FRP is not on here. That is our highest performing demographic. We did see our second year of continuous increase in our FRP students, and we had a nice turnaround again in our Hispanic student population. So that's reading. And this is math. 2 years of growth in proficiency for both FRP and Hispanic students. State, as you can see, is relatively flat. So we want to, at least we know what to expect this time. I did not do a ranking of 8th grade proficiency rates, so you'll just see state context only for 8th grade. But this is pretty exciting for Northfield. That 58% proficiency, 59, you round up, was higher than 91% of districts. Math higher than 94% of districts, and science at 57% was higher than 97, 98, if you round up, percent of districts testing 10 or more students. So 8th grade was a decided win this year. And I just want to give a shout out to the middle school staff for all the work they put in to get those results, and to our students and families. Yeah. So our ACT results, again, these are from the official graduating class reports. We did see a slight decline in our average ACT score. Also declining at the state level and the national level. So that's where we land this year. I don't have much more to say about that. This is the percent of our students who are meeting the college ready benchmark in each subtest. Math is our lowest. We have Carleton Statistical Consulting students finishing up a study right now, digging into our ACT results and the 8 subtest areas. And we will use that data as we continue our work in the content and instructional review cycle for math. We have TNTP support also helping us with that process. And as you can see by this graphic, it's an area we want to pay some closer attention to. Ben.
Hope I just gotta ask a question here, quick, 'cause I'm around this slide, but you said 32% met that benchmark for ACT, but if I look at all those percentages, they're all greater than 32%, so
32% met all four.
all four,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, appreciate that clarification.
So the AVID elective at the middle school, again, is devoted to teaching skills to students who are who show academic promise but are from underrepresented demographic groups, but it also includes a school-wide model to teach consistent study and organizational skills across the entire building. So we know that they're speaking a common language over there for students as they move through their classes, and we think, again, that's helping to prepare kids for success at the high school. We continue to use Edgenuity for credit recovery at the high school and the ALC, again, intervening early to keep kids on track and moving through their coursework. ACT preparation, we see departments actually digging into this data. We just worked with the 912 ELA team, who English language arts teachers who are using the ACT data to examine gaps in curricular resources that they're using. So we think that's a plus. And then again, looking at those building level MTSS teams to provide just-in-time support to students in need. And then goal 4, all students graduate from high school. We want to achieve a district graduation rate of 95%. And that's been our goal for a couple of years. We almost made it this year. Our district, again, this is a delayed reporting, right? We won't get class of 2024 results to anywhere from February to April, depending on when MDE publishes those. So this is the class of 2023. The district graduation rate was 93%, and it was 97% at Northfield High School. Here you can see the demographic breakdowns again with that black line representing the state graduation rate. You see a drop in our Hispanic graduation rate. And I just ask you to consider that cohort at a grade level is quite small. And any changes in even 1 or 2 students can really make that percentage change. And also, we have 4 components of that graduation rate. That 4-year graduation rate includes kids who are allowed by special education law to stay in school till they're 21, yet that counts against us if they are marked continuing by MDE. So you have students are either graduated, they are continuing, they have dropped out, or they are unknown, where we don't have a record and MDE doesn't have a record of a student leaving our high school and not enrolling anywhere else. So if in the case of smaller cohort or demographic group sizes, we happen to have some in every one of those categories, then we typically see a drop. And we know this, and we've looked at this over a number of years. The continuing status is a hard one to swallow, right? Because those are kids that aren't necessarily continuing because there's credit deficient. They are also in that group, but it is also special education students who by law have the right to continue their schooling. So here's Northfield High School's rate, well above the state average for all students. And then just the ALC continues to show success in their graduation rates since 2021. And if you recall, they were on identified as a school in need of support, working with advocates from the Regional Centers for Excellence. And again, it's because they expect ALCs to have graduation rates above 67% as well. We know that every student that graduates from the ALC is a win. And we are happy to see these upward trends, but we are really ecstatic to celebrate every single student that graduates from the ALC. So action steps for the graduation rate. Again, the AVID support, the ADSA support, and the High School Success Center, all working to make sure that kids are on track. The MTSS teams, again, as we've talked about, the high school has focused on high impact teaching strategies. These are research-based instructional techniques that are known to move kids at an accelerated rate. So they're in their third year of focusing on those high impact strategies for all teachers. We talked about Edgenuity, but again, if we can get to kids before they become credit deficient and get them back on track, they will graduate in 4 years. And then the change in family engagement process at the high school level to pull parents in to discuss their students' progress, and also just connect with families as quickly as possible when we see a student at risk of staying on track. So this is the table we include. You'll notice that third grade has been removed because we are not required to report that in the World's Best Workforce for this year. So we met our goal in kindergarten. We met our goal in 8th grade math. So close in reading. But that's just a summary of our goals and the results. And then as part of the World's Best Workforce report, we are required to report on our achievement and integration plan. And this is a 3-year plan. We were 2022 through 2025. So we will be writing a new plan this spring. We qualify for funding under achievement and integration because we border Faribault, who is considered a racially isolated district in the state of Minnesota. So again, our focus was on credit deficiency coming out of COVID. And so that was goal 1. And we have made improvement. We just haven't made it at the rate that we wanted to by 2025. Goal 2, it was our FRP performance rate on the 3rd grade reading MCA. Again, we have increased. We're at 38%. We wanted 40. So we're pretty close. We have 1 more year to count in that. And then goal 3, D's and F's, or it was actually F's at the middle school for quarter 2. Again, we've made progress. We just have not made progress to the rate that we were shooting for. Very aspirational to reduce your rate from 31 to 9, but we really were working towards improvement. So we see improvement. We don't see it at the rate that we initially, that the gap was at the start of our A&I plan for this 3-year term. And then finally, goal 4 has to do with the data summits that we, again, Northfield originated. Now we have a consortium of schools that participate, Waterville Elysian, Faribault, and Tri-City United. So at the spring 2024 summit, 100% of our attendees reported learning something new, and 100% reported that they were able to generate potential solutions for problems identified at their school. So we continue to see that this is an effective method for elevating student voice. And so we're really pleased with those results. So now we are moving from World's Best Workforce to this comprehensive achievement and civic readiness plan. This change was enacted in 2024. We have only recently become aware of all of the MDE's specifics regarding this change. So what it means is that each district must continue to develop goals. You're going to see they look very familiar, except for third grade reading has now been moved to the local literacy plan. And underneath CACR, we are adding a new goal, which is prepare students to be lifelong learners. So where we stand on that is that we will have to report on those 5 goals for this school year. So our November Northfield Forward meeting will take that stakeholder input to develop the measurement. Actually, we're going to review the measurement of all 5 of these goals. So they were given some ideas for how other districts are measuring these, and then we're going to reconvene in November and come up with the goals that we will use to measure our first CACR plan that will be reported on next fall. So same timeline, a year behind, right? So fall of 2025, we will be reporting on these goals. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Hope. Board members, you'll have a chance to ask questions during the regular board meeting. At this point, we will open up for community feedback. If there's anybody who would like to give feedback at this point, I will welcome you, call you up. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Hope. Right, at this point, I will ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Jeff, second. Second. Second by Cory. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We are adjourned.